Let's read from 1 Corinthians chapter 2, and the verse is 9. Chapter 2, and the verse is verse number 9. Amen. Hallelujah. Chapter 2, and the verse is 9. We are reading through to verse 16. But as it is written, are you there? But as it is written, eyes has not seen, nor ears heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which God prepares for those who love him. Next verse. But God has revealed them to us through his Spirit. God has done what? God has done what? God has done what? Take me back. Take me back. I want you to get where we are going. Take me back. But it is written, eyes has not seen, nor ears heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which the Lord prepared for those who love him. Are we there now? So it has not entered into anybody's mind. Nobody has heard of it. Nobody has seen it. Right? Peter, can we have this screen fixed before Wednesday? Is it possible? This one. Can everything be done possible? Everything doable. Please. Because I see you're struggling to. It has not entered the heart of man. Nobody has heard of it. Nobody has seen the things God has planned for us. Okay. So then how do we then know those things? Next verse. But God has revealed them to us through his Spirit. For the Spirit searches all things. Yes, the deep things of God. So when we pray or speak in tongues, there is what is embedded. There is what is being revealed to us through the Spirit of God. Now, if you don't know how to interpret what is in the Spirit of God, then you remain in verse 9. Are you following now? You remain in verse 9. Where now everything that has been promised, it is there, but you don't know it. No, your ears have not heard of it. You have not seen it. It has not entered your heart. But now verse 10 says that now they are made known to us. They are revealed. They are revealed to us through the Spirit. For the Spirit searches all things, yes, the deep things of God. Are you now getting it? So though ears have not heard of it, nobody have seen it, it has not entered the heart of man. But when you get into tongues, interpretation, now what is in the spirit realm now is revealed to you. Now you get to relate to it and understand it. Okay, let's continue. Next verse. Maybe. For what man knows the things of man except the spirit of the man which is in him? Holy Spirit, help us here. For what man knows the things of the man except the spirit of the man which is in him? There is a question. Even so, no one knows the things of God except the Spirit of God. No, you are letting me down. No, you are letting me down. Okay, take me back to verse 9. Because I need to go around this until you get it. Are you following? Take me back to verse 9. Because he said, but as it is written, okay, eyes have not seen. Are we there? Nor ears heard, nor have entered into the heart of man that things which God has prepared for those who love him. 29, verse 11 of Jeremiah. That I have planned for you. So, no, don't give me the verse. Don't give me the verse. Just leave me here. For I know the plans I have for you. Me, I don't know what God has for me, but God knows what he has for me. No, you are not following. Are you sure you're following me now? Now, God knows what is planning for me. I need to know what is in the plan of God for me. Now, when you know what is in the plan of God for you, that is when we say you know the will of God for yourself. People say, man of God, I want to know what is the will of God. I want to align myself to the will of God. No, it's not taught, it is revealed. No, can I tell somebody here? It is not taught, it is revealed. For I know the plans that I have for you. Thank you, God. But I also want to come to speed. I also want to come to speed because I want to know what you have for me. Because what you don't know, you can't pursue. God help us here. What you don't know, you will never pursue. And if you pursue, then you pursue it wrongly. I know the plans I have for you, to prosper you, to give you this, to give you that, is okay. But Lord, take me a bit closer. Bring me, let me understand it. It is written, eyes have not seen, no ears heard, nor even entered into the heart of man, the things that which God has prepared for those who love him. Now, next verse. Now you're beginning to catch me now. Because you will not understand the need for interpretation of tongues if you don't get this. And you're in verse 12. Take me back to verse 10, sir. But God has made it available to them through his Spirit. You get the interpretation now? Those that he has for us, now he has made it available through revelation to them in the Spirit, or through the Spirit. For the Spirit searches all things. Yes, even the deep things of God. Okay. It is your spirit that knows what is in your mind now as I'm preaching. It is your spirit that knows what you are saying on your way coming to church. So it is the Spirit of God that can download what is in the mind of God and give us. And that's why every believer needs to come to a place where you can pray and speak in tongues. There is difference. I told you last time, right? I gave you the difference of praying and speaking in tongues. Next verse now. So once now we have settled on that, now we can go now. For what man knows the things of a man except the spirit of a man, which is in him? I can never tell what is in you unless the Spirit of God help me. But you are the one who can know what is in you because your spirit, you are the one that is carrier of the Spirit. So nobody else can know what is in your spirit, man. Are we there? And the Bible says, even so, meaning the same way, no one knows the things of God except the Spirit of God. So I need to know what is in the mind of God. Because the mind of God is the will of God. Can I say it again? Yes. The mind of God concerning me, it is the will of God concerning me. So when I know what is in the mind of God concerning me, then I know the will of God concerning me. Are you following now? Once I know what is the mind of God concerning me, then I know the will of God concerning me. And when I know the will of God concerning me, then praying is not an issue now. Because as long as you are not putting the right chords, you are not going to break through. You need to get the chords right and key them in perfectly. Nobody else knows what is the spirit of another man. Though the same way, only the Spirit of God can tell us what is in the mind of God. Somebody shout, I hear. Next verse now. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God. Not which is from God. The Spirit who is from God. Now I don't know if you're following. This is deep. God help us here. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God. Not which is from God. Who? And who refers to personality? So we are talking about the person of the Spirit of God. Is that too deep? But the Spirit who is from God, that we might know the things that have been freely given to us by God, that we may know. That we may know. Though they have not been revealed, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, it has not entered the mind of God, but we receive the Spirit that now we may know. So meaning is available. Are you following what I'm saying? Our people say, utasikia watu wakisema kuna pesa. And then somebody will say, don't say pesa imepotea. Pesa iko kwa wengine. Ni wewe hauna. There are people who have money, they don't know what to do with it. Now the same way when you don't know the will of God concerning you, it doesn't matter, not everybody. There are people who know what God is saying part time. Because the Spirit has been made available that we may know freely what was given to us. I will not walk in darkness again. No, me, I will not walk in darkness again. I thought you would declare that. Amen. That we might know that things that have been freely given to us by God, the Spirit is given that He may help us now to know. And that's why now when you pray and speak in tongues, you get to grow and be sharp in the Spirit to have the ability to know what is God saying part time. Yes, sir. Next verse. Are you being blessed? Okay. Now these things we also speak. Did you see that? Yes. Did you see that? These things we also do what? Speak. Not in words which man's wisdom teaches, which is the Holy Spirit teaches. Now we are not speaking the words through the English or Swahili or anything that we have been taught or we can't be taught by men, but that which the Spirit of God teaches us. Comparing spiritual things with the spiritual. Not spiritual things with mortals. Spiritual things against spiritual things. Is the spiritual realm. You know, life we live here is manifestation of the things orchestrated in the realm of the Spirit. Do you get the point now? So is the spirit world of God against the spirit world of the enemy. So then, the Spirit of God then gives wisdom that help us to discern the spirit world which is of God and which is not of God. So when you hit your left leg on the road, kaboom, and somebody says there's a bad luck, now you can go in the realm of the Spirit and you can interpret it. Our people used to say if you're a man, and you leave in the morning and the first person you meet is a woman, you have a bad luck. You need to go back home and start off again. Is that so? Or if you are walking and you are going to look for something and you hit your left leg, there is a bad luck. Their interpretation. That's what I call interpret. That was their interpretation. Now you can choose to interpret it your own way. And what you call it is what it becomes. Okay, give me next verse. That's too deep. That is verse 14, right? But the natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of God. Now the way you are naturally, you cannot. The way you are, verse 9 is your portion. The way you are now. Without that spiritual discernment and interpretation, understanding, that verse 9, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, you are there as a natural man. Are you getting it? Natural, mortal man, you are in verse 9. But natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him. Nor can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. Now we are talking about now understanding interpretation. They are spiritually discerned. So you need to get to a place where you can discern them. Now the word they are spiritually discerned, what does it mean to a baby believer? I just got born again the other day, man of God. Yeah, and these things look like mirage. Yeah. They look good, but I want to understand it. They are spiritually discerned. Now the word discernment has been taught to us, but you realize until today you cannot discern. No, shut up here. Just say I hear. Are you following what I'm saying here? We have been told you need to understand and be able to discern. It's okay. Now, what is discernment? Then you go into dictionary, you get the word discernment, but now you cannot apply it. Are you following what I'm saying here? So you need to be in the position to learn how to interpret. Now, what the people in the secular call analyzing. In the social, in the corporate world, in the world, we call it, how do you analyze it? How do you analyze it? Now, in the Christendom, how do you interpret it? How do you analyze it? How do you interpret it? Because your point of view is affected by your place of view. Are you following? The way I look at you and the way you see me is different. Because where you are sitting and where I'm sitting is different. So then, my interpretation of this altar may be different from your interpretation of this altar. Because I cannot see the logo behind me and you can see the logo behind me. Are you following? So when we talk about interpretation, is you must check where do I sit or stand in the realm of the spirit. Because there are spiritual things against spiritual things. And that's why they are foolishness to a natural man. Will I end in time? Are you blessed? Hey. Woo! Next verse. Let me rush. I want to, we have a service after this also. But he who is spiritual. Did you see that? Did you see that? There was a word discernment in the previous verse. And now there is a word spirituality in the next verse. No, you are not following. In the previous verse, they are spiritually discerned. And now in verse 15, now by he who is spiritual judges all things. Yet he himself is rightly judged by no one. How do you judge matters? How do you judge things? That's what we call, that is your language of interpretation. Like I told you last time in the prophetic, I will see Maureen in black, right? And I will see Maureen in specs. And then I will choose to prophesy. Are you following me? And that is my own interpretation. And then when I go with her, and then she will say, man of God, is true. Now, the spirit of discernment, because I'm spiritual, helps me to interpret it, and now it's prophetic. Okay. Let me do an example. Let me try with you today. You see, she's wearing something that is that dotted or box? There are flowers on your, this thing, how do you call it? Scarf. And then your dress is having boxes. Some white somewhere, some black somewhere. Okay. Now, I want to interpret her by her dressing, not by what God told me. Because I'm matured to understand interpretation. Are you following me? Now, if I look at the dressing, and there is a scarf with flowers, and there are different colors on that flower. There is one which is chocolate. Is it? Another one is bluish. Is that greenish or bluish? Bluish. And there is white. And there is something that is a bit reddish. What is that? Orangish, something like that. Maroon. A bit of colors. Like the one of Joseph. A coat of many colors. Now you want to prophesy. You have entered a service. You don't know anybody. Now you have been taught interpretation. You are matured. Are you following me? Now, you look at her in the realm of the spirit. Are you here? How many students of the school of the prophetic are here? Okay. You look at her in the realm of the spirit. Now, let me interpret. Can I try with you? Now, so you don't say, and in the interpretation, because that one language she doesn't understand. Okay? It's a language that the prophet understands. So when I come to her, I tell her in the realms of the spirit, because it is spiritual, between spirits and spirits. And it can only be spiritually discerned, and it takes a spiritual person to judge all things. So then it's on my office as a prophet to interpret to her. Are you following? So then I talk to her now. And I tell her in the realm of the spirit, I've already interpreted. Are you following? So I can interpret now. I tell her, in the realm of the spirit, I can see. And because I've already seen dots and their boxes and their mix of colors, and she's one person, like if I want to talk to her now, it will be different because there's so much blue. There's so much blue. So I will not talk to her the same thing I'm telling her. You know, it is spiritual. And now the Spirit of God is the force behind what I will say. And that's why she will tell us if what I will say is true or false. I feel what I'm saying. So maybe she's speaking in tongues, and then I have the understanding of tongues interpretation. And before I begin to prophesy, and the Lord will tell me what she's saying in the spirit when she's praying in tongues. Because in the realm of the spirit now, I saw. I don't know how to interpret the spirit, but she will help me. I saw you pursuing something. Right? And in the realm of the spirit, there is giving up on the way. When you have to do something for 7 days, you have the morale for the first 3 days. And then your morale usually die. You don't have 100% pursuit. Let's say, for example, you have to fast 7 days. And then you do for 3 days. And then the last 4 days, there's a struggle. Either you don't do it completely or you stop it. Or number two, I'm trying to interpret what I'm seeing. So that she can be able to relate with it and tell me whether it is connected to her life or not. Yes. Are you following now? Yes, are you following? Yes. I've not gotten to tongues. I've not gotten to tongues. Are you following? So in the realm of the spirit, I saw you pursuing and you get tired along the way. And it's not once, it's not twice. Either spiritual things, any other thing that you pursue, there is the far you can go. And there is what we call, like, could it be discouragement? When you pursue something along the way, you get tired or, your spirit is lifted. The spirit, you pursue it for a while and the spirit is lifted. We can call it like discouragement. Right? So you realize you pursue something for a period of time, and then when you get to a point, you get discouraged. And you stop pursuing it. But in the inside, there is a battle. Now, that's where now I'm coming now. In the inside, there is a battle. There is one of you saying pursue. There is one of you struggling to pursue. And then, unachoka njiani. So one side has a strong willpower, one side is weak. So the weak side pulls the strong side, and then now they come to equilibrium, a balance. And then now you don't move forward, so you stagnate. Let's say, for example, can I give you an example? Either with fasting or anything that you are supposed to pursue. So you pursue it, it's supposed to be 7 days. I'm giving you an example. But you do either the half or the quarter or more than half. But you will never do it completely perfectly. If you do it, you do it through struggle. If you succeed the 7 days, the energy you put is more than the energy you're supposed to have put from the beginning. Have you ever found yourself in that position? Have you ever found in that position? It's very true. Yes. I use both the scarf and the dress. Because I understand the difference of the colors, number one. And then I saw the way the colors are put in the scarf and the way the colors are placed in the dress. I did not say, that says the Lord. No. Now, I have not brought God says. That's my office. Yes, maturity in the office. So that's why I say if you don't know how to interpret tongues, there are things God is saying, but they will remain unknown to you. Does it not make sense? So I've already known she has some discouragement problem. Do you understand what I'm saying? Not because God said, because I'm matured to know what God is saying part time. And I can be able to interpret and bring it to a language you understand. See that? It's all good to use visitors, for example. Amen. Are we there now? But he who is spiritual, next verse now. Give you next verse, the last one. Did you get what I'm saying now? So, if you want to interpret, Eunice is putting on blue. Doris is putting on green. Is that green? With small of black somewhere. Right? And Pastor Emma is putting on something with red and white and black. But the red and white and black, like now black covers a bigger portion. Right? And now like a quarter part of the dress is reddish and whitish. Is that true? But black covers a bigger thing. You know, it's not black as it is. It's also the proportion of the colors. Which one covers bigger portion? So then you know what blacks mean, you know what white mean, you know what red means. Then now you begin to do the maths in the realm of the spirit. And now where you sit helps you to get the point of view. Okay, what? And then now is a spiritual thing. For who has known the mind of the Lord that he may instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ, so we can instruct him. For who have known the mind of God that he may instruct him? The question. But now we have the mind of Christ, so then it means we can. And that's why I would say be healed. And you see people instantly healed. Because I have the mind of Christ, so I can instruct him. So I can interpret the mind of God through the will of God, and then it's prophetic. Because prophecy is to tell you what God is thinking about you. A day after today, what is God saying about you tomorrow? Meaning, it has not been said, but it's in the mind of God. So if the Spirit of God can help me to travel to the throne room to know what is in the mind of God, then when I tell it to you, it is the will. When I get it from God, it is the mind of God. But when I deliver it to you, it is the will of God. No, you are not following. Are you following what I'm saying? Are you following what I'm saying? Are you following what I'm saying? When I get it from God, I'm downloading his mind. Okay? Now when I communicate it, I'm speaking his will. And it is the Spirit of God that can tell us what is in the mind of God. So if you can speak in tongues and you cannot interpret what you are speaking, then you are missing a lot. So imagine how much you have missed. Because if I say now, let's begin to speak in tongues, you'll see. Now, if you speak like that, do you even catch one thing? Can you tell us after 5 minutes of speaking in tongues what you are saying? And because I have the ability, I will know if you're saying the truth. Okay. How do we interpret tongues? Prophet, give us space. Give us space. Give us more space. I should give you space. Are we there? You can interpret tongues through your thoughts. Write them down. You can interpret tongues through your thoughts. Those thoughts that come along when you pray or speak in tongues. I will explain. Are we together? Are we together? The thoughts that sometimes come in your mind when you pray in tongues. Now, let me do an example. Okay? you are speaking in tongues. You know, as you speak in tongues, then your mind just leaves. Are you following me? You know, you didn't intend to go there. You know, it's not intentional. You are just speaking in tongues, and then all of a sudden, your mind just take you somewhere. Are we there? Or you are seriously praying this time in tongues, and then a picture or something just come in your mind. Sometimes, that is the interpretation of what you're saying. But in most cases, what do? We rubbish it. Is that so? In most cases, we do what? We rubbish it. Because they are spiritually designed. And because your discernment level is having a problem, that's why you rubbish it. You are praying in tongues. And then a thought just lands on you that I was supposed to call my mother yesterday. And I didn't call her. There is something the Spirit of God is telling you that is concerning your mother. So then it's your work then to interpret what could it be. Now a wise believer who is matured in the things of God, you pray about it up front, even before you know the interpretation. And then you seek to know what could the Lord be saying concerning this part-time. Are you following what I say? Number two thing, tongues interpretation sometimes happens in a dream. Sometimes it happens where? In the dream. Or vision. Dreams or vision. I told you about the dream interpretation here last time, right? Right? Mm-hmm. You can interpret tongues also through the happenings, the events that take place around you at the moment you're praying. The events, the happenings at the time of prayer or tongues. As far as spirituality is concerned, nothing happened for nothing. Everything happened for a reason. Are we together? So, I was praying in tongues. And as you are praying in tongues, maybe you are walking in church, and then something just happened that you close your eyes. And then before you open your eye, you, like I said last time, something just fell from somewhere. Boom. It was well placed. See it, uliweka vibaya. It was well positioned. But somehow, you touched it or nothing touched it, but it just fell down. Mpaka ukashtuka fungua macho kaangalia, then you went and picked it and took it back. And then you continue with your prayer. What is the message? Do you just take it as something that fell down and then you picked and took it? Then why did it fall before you started praying? It has been there before. Are you following? It has been there before. Why didn't it fall before? Are you following what I say? You are seriously praying in your house or in a church like this, then a child begin to cry so crazily in the neighborhood. So bad, so much that it even interferes with your peace. What is the interpretation? Or sometimes you are praying in tongues, and at some point your eye begin to blink. Or you feel part of your body, or some sharp pain just come at once in your stomach. And then after that, you didn't hear it again. What is the message? In most cases, we interpret it to be an attack. Shetani ametumia mtoto akuja nipige kelele hapa nisiombe. Hello? Are you following what I'm saying? Are you following what I'm saying? Or you are used to pray in your house, and then one day you are praying, and these neighbors who have anointing from Satan, they just put one big woofer, and they release big music. It is not normal. It happened that day only. The problem is not what is happening. The problem is what is your interpretation. Because God sometimes also speaks through the happenings. Are you following now? Are you following now? See. Write this down. Interpretation can also be done through direct voice. Through direct what? Voice. I will explain. You hear a voice directly. You know, as you pray in tongues or as you speak in tongues, you can hear a voice parallel to these tongues telling you something directly without interpretation. A king saw a handwriting on the wall, and there were two problems. One was reading the writing, and two was giving interpretation of the writing. Are you following now? And when now they brought in the young man was able to read what was written. Mene, mene, tekel upharsin. A funny language. And now, problem was not reading. The problem was interpretation. Because what will help me is not the words, is the meaning of the words. Are you following what I'm saying now? And then he said, your kingdom have been measured, your leadership. Imepimwa kwa mzani. And it's coming to an end. And that's interpretation. And I told last time, they said Joseph was a dreamer. And I asked myself, how many times did he dream before we call him a dreamer? Because by dreaming once, that one doesn't make you a dreamer. By prophesying once doesn't make you a prophet. Hello? Yes. But they saw Joseph coming. They say, look at the dreamer coming. And all through we saw Joseph interpreting dreams. We didn't see him dreaming dreams. We saw him interpreting. Are you getting what I'm saying here? So what made Joseph what Joseph was not dreaming. Was interpretation of dreams. Because what took him to prison was a battle between him and the woman. Now when he got into the prison, what prepared him coming out was interpretation of the dreams. That he interpreted in the prison. And when there was a case in the palace, they invited him to interpret. So you are not going to benefit by dreaming. You are going to benefit by understanding the dream. Does it make sense now? So tongues, as they were, will not help you so much if you don't understand how to interpret at some point. You may not have 100%, but you upate 10%, kumi kidogo. Even 10%. You may not get 100%, but even 10. At least once you are praying like that, and then the Spirit of God just drop in your heart, boom, you say, hey, I've got that one. At least you hold one. Usikwe 0. Because 0 plus 0. 0 plus 1. At least have something. Does it make sense now? So there are those when they pray or people speak in tongues, they hear a voice. That lady is saying this. That man is saying this. It's a higher level. That is a higher level. But at least you can interpret through happenings. You can interpret through the feeling at the moment. You can interpret. You know, there is the feeling you have when you speak in tongues. Is it just a feeling that particularly comes with that moment? Amen. Or you are praying in tongues and all of a sudden you feel frightened. Or you feel happy. You feel, the mood within the season or the timing. Amen. Somebody asked me, Papa, why is it that these days we don't hear the voice of God like, Robert, Robert, where art thou? Are you following? Yeah, because those days, Moses, Samuel. At least we would hear the voice. Why is it that we rarely hear the audible voice like it were? Amen. In the days of old, the Spirit of God used to dwell on us. Up, on. Are we there? Now it dwells in. Now when you are outside, when I speak, you hear my voice. But if you are inside, when I speak, did you get that? Are you getting something? Yes, sir. And that's why most of the time you think it's the voice of the man. Because it doesn't dwell in the outside any longer. It dwells in the inside. And when a voice comes from inside of you, it's not easy to hear it physically. Naturally. It's not easy to. Does that make sense now? So you see, it's very high. It has been lifted. It's not as it were before. Though still God can speak through a voice. But now it takes a high level of maturity to be able to discern and know what is God saying now. Because sometimes God may speak. Have you ever walked on the road and then ukasikia tu Godwin? And then you looked, you did not see anybody. You said, every demonic force from my father's house, scatter. Have you ever been there before? Is that true? You know, you just walked one day, Effie. You are in your car. Hey, every demon from my mother's house, fire, scatter. I bind, I loose, I break, I kick, How you find what I say? So God knows that when you hear of the outside spirit, if you're not matured enough, in most cases, you will not accept it. In most cases, you will not accept it. That's why he said they have ears, but they cannot hear. They have eyes, they cannot see. Because the discernment, there's a problem with their discernment. They are spiritual, but not spiritual enough. And now the only problem again with the outside is that there are two people outside. There's a demon and there's a physical man. So you think, number one, kuna mtu ameniona nikipita ameniita. So once you look at the person, ukaona there's nobody, then you conclude that must be my father's demons. I know my father's family. I know very well, I know the wiring in that home. They will not succeed. They will not do what? Succeed. You don't think God could also speak from that angle. And then when you don't think God can speak that way, then you are questioning the sovereignty of God. Because God is too sovereign that he can do anything. Even the chair you are sitting on, God can use it to speak. And I asked you I think it was this year. I asked you this year, Nikoleza, if you wake up tomorrow morning and you are a man, 100%. Unaona ndevu kama ya Pastor Robert? Yani you are a man. Hey, so you are not you are Mr. Emma. So you are now not Emma Emmanuel. It doesn't look possible, isn't it? No, it doesn't look possible. And when you still think that is impossible, then you are still questioning the sovereignty of God. God is too sovereign. Are you following what I'm saying now? Are we together now? Yes. Huh? Is this helping you? Are you sure? So tongues interpretation you need to know that God can speak to you through you. In tongues interpretation, you need to know that God can speak to you through you. Peter, come. You need to know what? God can speak to you through you. Amen. Praise the Lord. Amen. God speaking to you through. So the voice is inside of you. Because the Bible says his dwelling now is with man. His dwelling is now with. And that's why when I taught about hearing the voice of God, I told you how to know which one is the voice of God, how to know which one is the voice of man, how to know which one is the voice of Satan. And then after knowing those ones, then now you begin to know how to interpret them, how to discern them. Amen. Whenever there is a voice that speaks in you and you have a confidence that this voice is the voice of God, now you can believe. But when you don't have confidence that the voice that is speaking through me is not a voice of God, you will not believe. For example, how then do I know that this is God talking to me. Because I saw something and I wanted to say it. So before I declare it, I must have confidence that this is God speaking. So then I'm not ashamed saying it. But if I don't have confidence in what I wanted to say, I don't believe it. And what I don't believe cannot work for me. Then I question it, and once I question it, it's not authentic. Once I question it, it's not authentic. So whenever I hear voice, I need to be able to grow to a place to know this is me. Because I told you anything that comes from you must glorify you. Simple. It must give you peace, you, the physical you. It must glorify you. It must give you joy that is in the outside. It must fulfill your outside, your physical desires. Are you following what I'm saying? A voice of a man is like an urge for sex. It settles the physical man. It doesn't settle the spiritual man. The voice of a man. Did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said? The voice that comes from you, it has to glorify you. It brings you physically into a comfort zone. And then you realize after a while you need to hear another voice. And then you hear another voice that comes from you, then gives you another comfort. And then next tomorrow you need another voice. And then you're always not settled because you are not hearing from God, you're hearing from you. And that's where now regret comes. I wish I knew. Because you never regret when you hear from God. Did you hear what I said? So when you talk about interpretation of tongues, the happenings, the feelings, the mood, there's so much that goes along. Sometimes people are praying, I'm seated there, or I'm standing there, or I'm standing here, and everybody's praying. And you just see me, I don't close my eyes. The Bible says pray as you watch. So everybody, close your eyes so you can be spiritual. Because I know some of you, if you don't close your eyes, you don't pray serious. Huh? Now me, if once I open my eye, I look at you like that, God now begin to give me interpretation. Through your countenance itself, I'm able to interpret. And then I tell everybody, put your hands on your head, shout mercy. And everybody's putting their hands on their head, they are shouting mercy because of what I've seen in most of them. You thought I'm just praying for mercy. God, we need mercy. No mercy. It's what I've seen. Does it make sense now? Chapter 16 and the verse 17 of Mark. Let me give you some few scriptures now. Chapter 16, verse 17 of the book of Mark. Oh. Oh. We worship you, our God. You are worthy. Mark 16, 17. Mark 16 and the verse is 17. You are Alpha. Mark 16, 17. Are we there? Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. And these signs, can we read together? Those who believe in my name, they will cast out demons. They will do what? They will do what? So as a believer, you can speak with the new tongues. Acts chapter 2 verse 4. Acts chapter 2 verse 4. So as a believer, you qualify to speak in tongues. Acts chapter 2 verse 4. Chapter 2 verse 4. Are you there? He said, and they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterances. They were all filled. I pray you get to that level where now you are filled and you speak in tongues. Verse 11. And it shall come to pass in the last days, says the Lord, that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your young men shall see visions. And your old men shall dream dreams. Joel chapter 2 verse 28. The same. Amen. I shall pour out my spirit upon all flesh. It doesn't matter whether black, tall, yellow, green. Are you following? All. Mpaka albino. Ada zeru zeru. If they position themselves well, they can hear the voice of God. Do you understand what I'm saying? Chapter 10 verse 46 of Acts. 10:46. 10:46 of Acts. 10:46 of Acts. For they heard them speak with tongues and magnify God. For they heard them speak in tongues and magnified God. And they heard them speak in tongues and magnified God. How did they know those tongues are magnifying God if they were not able to interpret it? How did they know those tongues were magnifying God if they were not able to interpret it? They had the ability to interpret. And when they interpreted it, they knew these people are glorifying God. Do you know there are times you pray in tongues or you speak in tongues and you're just complaining? Are you aware? 1 hour, roke pare tuzuka, you're just complaining. Another 1 hour, you are glorifying God. Another 1 hour, you are praising Him. Another 1 hour, you are now making petitions. And they heard them. Walisikia venye mimi nakusikia hapa sahi na wananisikia sahi. And they were able to know those people are glorifying God. For they heard them speak with the tongues and magnify God. How do you know that person speaking in tongues is magnifying God if you cannot interpret it? Hallelujah. Chapter 19 verse 6 of Acts. 19 verse 6 of Acts. It says, and when Paul had laid hands upon them, the Holy Spirit came upon them, and they spoke with tongues and prophesied. They spoke in tongues and prophesied. Now, why am I bringing prophetic? Because I told you it is the Spirit that can tell us what is the mind of God, and the mind of God is the will of God. And when you tell me the will of God concerning me, you are prophesying to me. Are you getting what I'm saying? It's simple. The word prophecy is to interpret and download the mind of God concerning me and tell it to me. You're already prophesying. Wacha mambo mengi ya wacha hizo vitu mingi unasoma kwa dictionary. Take it from what I'm telling you, you are good to go. Once you know what is the mind of Him and you can tell it to her and He is God, you have prophesied. Because word of knowledge tells you the root cause of the problem. It takes you back to the root cause. Are you following? What is the root cause? Word of wisdom, the solution. Word of prophecy, the mind of God, the will. Simple. Are you learning? Are you learning something? Are you sure? Are you sure? 1 Corinthians 12 verse 10. 1 Corinthians 12 verse 10. So this one should tell you, if you are not able to speak in tongues, you know, in our impartation service, you are a candidate. Come with your heart prepared, so you can hear what thus says the Lord. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, and the verse is 10. To another, the working of the miracle. To another, prophecy. To another, discernment of spirits. To another, different kind of tongues. To another, interpretation of tongues. The same Spirit. Does it make sense now? One person is gifted to working miracles. One person. Another one, prophecy. If he enters, he will prophesy mpaka aseme nani ataka kwa ile kiti kabla hajakuja. Are you following? It's a gift. Another discernment of spirits. Atakaa tu hivi na akwambie huyu jamaa ana nia mzuri. And if you give it time, you realize what they were saying was true. They have it. Kuna wale hata hawajaokoka na wako na hiyo spirit. Anakuambia tu mimi naona hii safari si mzuri. Na akikwambia kaa nyumbani wacha umang'aa. Hello? Hajaokoka lakini akikwambia fanya nini? Kanyo acha pupa, tulia. They are gifted. The only problem with those who are not born again, Satan can use it against you. Are you following? So when they are born again, it works well. And others, different kind of tongues. Today, unasikia he speaks in one tongue, you feel like recording. Huh? You say, if that woman speaks in tongues, I just want to record it. When I go to my house, I listen to it. Hi, that is sweet. You know, they are gifted. Have you ever seen somebody like that? I had one woman in Mombasa, those days we were born again, that woman speak. We wanted to copy tongues. You know, hi, her tongues were beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Sweet. She speaks in tongues. Unaacha yako. Hello? Nice, sweet. You enjoy. You say, Jesus. Are you following what I'm saying? Are you sure you're following what I'm saying? But to another, now interpretation of tongues. So it's a gift you should have. What I'm preaching is not out of the Bible. It's in the Bible. And the gift of tongues interpretation comes in the spiritual gift, is in the gift of prophecy. You can never, there is no prophet I've ever seen who cannot interpret tongues. That man is a quack. If you're a prophet who cannot interpret dreams, you cannot interpret tongues, you are in problem. Because dreams are in the spirit of prophecy, tongues are in the spirit of prophecy. So then they are arms. So what have you been prophesying? Because God said to Abraham, to Moses, I spoke with him face to face, but to my prophet I spoke to them in dreams. Right? So if he spoke to his prophets in dreams, and how then did you get to know what God is saying without telling me? And you told me and you didn't hear him. That's why you must understand how to interpret these things. When somebody is praying, you tell me, Papa, I hear that says the Lord. As we were praying, my sister on the left, I said, let's hear what God is saying. But this one, even your own, you cannot hear. What did you say? You say, man of God, leave that thing. Let's continue. Okay. Hallelujah. You have seen people pray. I say, shh. I pick somebody. I say, as you are praying in your spirit, you are saying this. And they say it's true. And they just say, how did you know, man of God, what was in our mind and people are praying? It's because the Spirit of God is helping me to interpret what they are saying at the moment. You understand what I'm saying? God will help us. Chapter 14 of the same 1 Corinthians. Verse 5 to verse 6. Are you being blessed? Are you blessed? I wish you spoke with tongues. You all spoke in tongues. But even more, that you prophesied. I need to talk about this. I wish. Are you there? 1 Corinthians 14 verse 5. 14 verse 5. 1, 2, 3, go. I wish that you all spoke in what? With the tongues. But even more than that, you do what? For he who prophesies is greater than he who speaks in tongues. Hallelujah. Okay, them that speak in tongues are okay, but those who prophesy are greater than those who speak with tongues, unless indeed he interprets those tongues that he speaks, that we may know what he's saying. You see now why prophets are being fought? Do you now see why prophets are being fought? Okay. But even more that you prophesied. For those who prophesies is greater than those who speak in tongues only. And they are good in tongues, but they can't even tell us what they are saying. So when I get there, I keep quiet. So if you like kuwa na kitambi kubwa, If you like, be fat, be small, but we compare notes there. I pray God give you that grace. That you, when you speak in tongues, you know what God is saying and you can speak it out. With boldness. What if I say it is not true? If it's not true, is it your work? Is it your business? Are you the one who said it? I don't care. I make sure I communicate it, because I told you there is hearing, there is interpretation, there is communication. So you may have heard the right thing, but the way you are telling her, she cannot be able to relate with it. So you are right, but you are telling her the wrong way. So then she will tell you, I don't know what you are saying. That one does not make you a false prophetess. Then you need nurturing to be trained how to communicate. Are you following what I'm saying? God will give you that grace. God will give you that grace. You pray and speak in tongues and you already know what you're saying. Hallelujah. Are you following what I'm saying? Chapter 14 verse 18, the same 1 Corinthians. Take me to verse 18 now. So it's better we prophesy. Thank you, my God. I speak with tongues more than you all. Paulo. I thank my God because he has blessed me to be able to speak in tongues than you all. So meaning, equal in levels. Kuna wale wanasema origari, 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 origari. Na hiyo ndio level yake. Origari, origari, origari. Everybody speak in tongues. Origari, origari. Origari, 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 origari. Wengine wamekwama kwa lie, tie, lie, tie, lie, tie. Wengine kwa raba, raba. Mama, raba. Baba, raba. You are okay. Just pray. You grow small. There are those who they blow in tongues. Are you following what I say? There is in levels. Are you following what I say? Is in what? Don't think because you cannot speak in tongues better than others, you are not filled. You are just filled. Ni tu kukoma tu kidogo. Amen. But I wish in all things that you may prophesy. 39 of the same verse. Take out of verse 39. We are a prophetic church. You will prophesy. How many people prophesied that day when I did impartation? And people are prophesying here. How many people managed to prophesy? Only 3. 1, 2. It was here. Pastor Godwin, Effie. You did not prophesy that day. Doris? I'm asking, how many people prophesied that day are imparted people? You prophesied, right? I will impact you. And you will go in your workplace, you look at your boss like this. Tell him, sir. So why am I seeing on your chest like this? Like there is some pain here. He said, how did you know? He said, don't worry, you tell me if there is some pain there or not. Hey, that boss will fear you. The next somebody said, but why did I see you quarrel with mama? This one you quarrel with mama. Forgive her. 2 things. He will promote you or sack you. Others will say you carry because they don't know the Holy Spirit. 1, 2, 3. Therefore, brethren, desire earnestly to prophesy, I beg you. Did you see that? Can we read together? Desire earnestly to do what? To do what? Desire to prophesy. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. Desire to prophesy. And do not forbid to speak in tongues. So, as I speak in tongues, I prophesy. So, I should desire prophecy. But I should not forbid speaking what? A pastor called me and said, man of God, I respect you. But I saw you teaching people prophetic interpretation, tongues interpretation. That is wrong. I say, you are mad. He said, why are you? I said, I did not abuse you. The reason you are mad is because the Bible says I should desire to prophesy. You are saying when I teach people to prophesy is wrong. They should, I beseech you, prophecy. is better than when you only speak in tongues. Because when you speak in tongues which you can't interpret, it's not helping us. But when you speak in tongues and at least God can bless you, because I cannot be preaching and I speak tongues which I can't tell you the meaning. Hello? Are you following? Read together with me again. Therefore, those who pray in tongues and speak in tongues, but they are not yet in the level of interpretation, they are just growing. Are you following? But as for you now understand, now try to go deeper. Try to launch deeper. Launch where? Deeper. As for me, I'll prophesy. I'll prophesy. Verse 22 of the same. Verse 22 of the same. Before we pray. Are you happy? Therefore, tongues are for a sign. Did you see that? Tongues are for a sign. No, you did not see that. Therefore, tongues are for sign, not to those who already are born again, but to those who are unbelievers. Why you need to prophesy? Okay? But prophesying is not for unbelievers, but for those who already believe. So when you speak in tongues, you don't profit me. But those who don't believe are shocked. Ai, kwani yemasi ni mbaluya? Kwani lugha anaongea ni gani? It's a sign to them that Holy Ghost came upon you. And the Bible says, and those who believed that day in Acts chapter 2 verse 4, the Spirit came upon them and each one of them spake in tongues. So it's a sign to them, hey, Holy Ghost has come on them. He has arrived. It's a sign to them. But to me, it's no longer a sign. Because even me, I speak in tongues. Yeah. So you speaking in tongues do me nothing. Until you are able to tell me what it says. And now when you can tell me what the tongues are saying, you are prophesying. No, are you following? Just praying or speaking in tongues doesn't profit me. It begins to profit me when you can tell me what the tongues are saying. And when you tell me what the tongues are saying, then you are prophesying. And now prophesying then is not for unbelievers. It's for us. For edification. Are you getting what I'm saying now? So if you have been speaking in tongues for 10 years, no one day you have ever interpreted your tongues, then you can tell when you may go on to hasara. Mostly when you speak it in the congregation. But if you speak in your, praying in tongues is different from speaking in tongues. Hello? Praying in tongues is different from speaking in tongues. I think next time I need to teach you that. We are talking about speaking here. When you talk about praying in tongues, we're talking about praying in the Spirit. And people think praying in the Spirit and praying in tongues are different. And then I pray in the Spirit. It is when you actually pray in tongues that you pray in the Spirit. Because flesh is profiteth nothing. Letter killeth. Flesh profiteth nothing. It's the Spirit that quickeneth. So I allow my spirit to intercede and pray on my behalf. And I go into an unknown tongues. And then now what the Spirit is interceding for me, I know not. But God giving you grace to understand, when you are in the congregation like this, people are speaking in tongues everywhere. You begin to see a breakthrough, testimony, anointing, healing. You begin to hear new dimensions. And when you rise up here, you begin to prophesy. He said, can I pro? And you prophesy. He said, when we were praying, the Lord told me. The Lord told me through your tongues. Rise up on your feet. This one, the way you are quiet. The way you're quiet is making me to suspect you. Hallelujah. Clap your hands together for Jesus. Better for Jesus.